Have you ever had your cute childhood friend come up to you and ask to be friends with you because she's lonely and coincidentally went to the same high school? Our MC, Shizuki, got his heart broken in middle school by a girl he thought he was friends with. She only spoke to him to feel better about herself. After that, he's been changing himself from his Teletubby build to a handsome Giga Chad build. He studied hard to make sure he got into an advanced school, so no one could know of his past. In the present, Shizuki's mewing has paid off. His friend comes over to him and says they should go to the cafeteria, but he still hasn't finished writing, so he stays behind. But with one exception. Kusunoki is a girl that went to the same school as him. She's rumored to be the prettiest girl in the school and has already been confessed to, although Shizuki hasn't talked to her directly. She was just like him in his previous school except for being fat. Even though they weren't in the same classes, they both used to go to the library together. Because of what that other girl did, it's affected his views on all pretty women. He thinks never interacting with her is for the best. He gets up and leaves the classroom, doubting they'll ever talk. Kusunoki gets up and runs over to him asking for help. Shizuki looked confused. He thought they might go home the same way, but never thought she'd talk to him. He asks what she wants. She apologizes. She says she's in a lot of trouble right now and really wanted to talk to him. She explains that she can only ask him since they both went to the same middle school. Kusunoki can see how much he's changed. He shouts that she's changed a lot too. He covers his mouth, hiding his stinky breath. One of his old habits came back ever since he was heartbroken. He struggles with mysterious health problems when making eye contact with beautiful women. I don't have this problem. Everyone was staring at him, so he says it's nothing and that they should go talk in the park. It was getting so late, the street lamps turned on. She explained the situation to him. She changed her appearance, but is struggling to change her personality, so she tries to avoid having conversations. He tells her that he isn't good at communicating either. She says that isn't true, since he talks to everybody at school and has lots of friends and respects him. Add that to the sentence. He asks what she's talking about and that she's got friends too. She says she doesn't think they're friends with someone just because a boy talks to her, and it seems as if the girls in class are avoiding her. And from an outsider's POV, she's always swarmed by boys because of her big personality, which leaves a bad impression. Kusunoki thinks if she can only change her appearance but not what's deep inside her, then what's the point? She thinks she's a bad person, and thinks it's why she was alone in middle school. Shizuki can see himself in Kusunoki, not literally. He tells her to be more confident in herself, because she put a lot of effort in. He tells her to take small steps because that worked for him, and eventually communication will get easier. He then realizes that he's looking her in the eyes without feeling sick, and he rushes to try and leave. Kusunoki grabs hold of him and tells him to wait. She asks how he took small steps. Shizuki just wants to leave. He says if she can make one friend, then the rest should be easy. She asks if he'd be friends with her. Check the second box. She says he's someone she can relate to and begs him. He thinks about it. There's nothing to think about Shizuki. This is an easy way to get a girl's phone number. He's worried that if he helps her, she'll end up like a popular girl and her personality would change and end up just like that other girl. Kusunoki is trembling. Shizuki can't ignore those puppy eyes and doesn't want her to continue on like this, so he says he doesn't mind. She thanks him. He tells her this is a limited time offer until she makes other friends. Seems this man really doesn't want her around. She says she's still glad. He notices that he's able to stare into her eyes completely fine, thinking their relationship won't change much. The next day, Kusunoki sits at his table. As you can tell by his facial expression, he doesn't want her here. He asks if she's eating lunch here. She says yep. He starts panicking, noticing everyone looking at them and talking about them. Meanwhile, she looks really happy because this is probably the first time she's ever had lunch with a friend. Shizuki's friends come over and say that they're going to go to the cafeteria by themselves today, since Shizuki looks busy. Friends, seeing his high school life flash before his eyes. I mean, come on, how could you ignore that cute face? He was about to start going off on her, but her smile made him give up. He lets it slide for the day. Terrible MC. Kusu asks Shizuki if she can call him by his first name. He says, do what you want, and tells her that he's going to go buy her something to drink. She tags along with him. Walking in the hallway, Shizuki knocks into someone, and oh, shit, he fumbled. Kusunoki was clueless. Kusunoki asks Shizuki if he's alright. They both look at each other. Shizuki is in disbelief. He searched through all the names to make sure she wasn't in the school. It turns out her name is Hebikawa Ririsa. A friend calls her, and she tells her to give her a second. She asks him if he's okay. Shizuki can't look at her. While he's shaking, Ririsa asks Kusunoki if she's his friend, and says she should take him to the infirmary because he doesn't look well. Kusunoki agrees, and Ririsa tells Shizuki to take care of himself, getting a little too close for comfort, trying to resist the metal pipe that's rising. She walks away, while Shizuki is pulling the 1,000-yard stare, worrying that his peaceful high school days are over. She takes her advice and tells him that they should go to the infirmary with a worried look on her face, and offers to carry him if he's feeling tired. He shouts he won't let it end like this, while this poor woman just looks at him in confusion. Shizuki calls Kusunoki lieutenant. She replies, "Yes, sir," not knowing what's going on. His flashbacks came back so hard he thought he was serving in the army. She asks if he's feeling all right now. He says he's fine. Later, school ends. Kusu asks Shizuki if they could go home together. With a bright smile on her face, he tries to come up with a lie to say that he's busy, but Kusu says she'll wait for him, pushed by her bright smile. Two boys appear, hearing their conversation. One of the boys noticed that Shizuki seemed to be on good terms with Kusunoki, and asks if they're going out, in hopes he can get inside her wholesomeness. He spin dashes out the classroom. The two boys have a smirk on their faces. They tell Kusunoki she should walk with them since he's gone. Meanwhile, Shizuki is analyzing his terrible day and realizes he left her behind. Suddenly, he hears boss music and she appears. He asks why she's here. While she's out of breath, she says she was chasing behind him, surprised that she ran. He asks why she'd go so far. She was desperate to go home with him. She asks if he disliked it. He says it's not that he dislikes it, and get ready, he's about to shout again. He says that it isn't normal for a man and a woman to go home together. Neither is eating lunch together too, which shocks her. She asks why isn't it? It's because people might get the wrong idea. He does a sharp 180 and demands that she doesn't talk to him so much in the classroom. Kusunoki reminds him of her shortcomings and loneliness and the advice he gave her. He can't think of anything to say back to her, and he's starting to realize how much of a piece of shit he is. She comes up with an idea. She asks him if she can call him every night from now on instead. He's almost secured the phone number. He's bad at saying no, so he accepts and limits it to twice a week, although every day would have been the better option. They exchange phone numbers, and she smiles seeing her first friend added on her phone. That smile is too pure. She asks if she can call him tonight, and he agrees to it, but on the condition that he calls her. She tells him she'll be waiting. He couldn't refuse such a happy face. He doesn't know what to talk about with her, let alone spoken to her in a while. He sets the timer for 10 minutes, then he'll hang up. He calls her, and she picks up instantly. Kusunoki thanks him for calling her. Shizuki is struggling to find something to talk about. They start a conversation about the weather, but she gives a direct answer, not explaining anything. Awkward silence. He has 5 minutes left on his timer. He asks if there's any hobbies she has. She loves watching and reading manga, something we all have in common. He asks what genre. Those are a nice pair of feet. I ain't reading all that. It turns out she's a stereotypical otaku. She asks him which manga he likes. He's into a manga called Nova. She likes the same thing too, and has all the volumes, which surprises him. The 10-minute timer is up. She asks what that sound was. He tells her it's nothing, and they carry on their conversation for an hour and a half. He never thought that they were on the same wavelength. Kusunoki walks by him, looking gloomy. She says good morning. He starts worrying about her since she was fine yesterday. He tries to avoid thinking about it. She looks drained. The guy from before decides to take this opportunity to float around her like a fly. He's curious as to why she's acting so differently today, so he goes to her. She asks if there's something wrong. He says he noticed she seems very down today, even though he stopped her to talk. He's embarrassed, but lets his words out. She felt that even though she asked him to call her, she felt like she was speaking the entire time. He's surprised that she's so sad because of something so small. He specifies that they're doing this so that she can get used to talking, and says it's not a problem at all. She felt as if the conversation was one-sided, and felt she was the only one who had fun and thought that she should just disappear. He says she shouldn't apologize, since it was surprisingly fun. She looks up at him, and his friends appear while he's in shock. His friend asks what he's doing, since this angle looks very suspicious. They ask if he wants to go karaoke with them. They tease him and ask if they're interfering with his his conversation. One of his friends asks what his relationship is with Kusunoki while he's shaking in embarrassment. They say goodbye to her. Shizuki whispers to her to go home, and she nods. His shorter friend starts showing his no contact with women arc on Shizuki. Kusu calls him and says she had loads of fun last night. She's just too pure, and that timing was awful. They tease him about it, and one of them is suspicious of his activities with her. Both his friends start going off on him. This is the end for now. Let me know if you'd like more of this manga.
もうちょっと見てたい。干渉するのやめてあげて。あ